Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Luna stood in the middle of the room, her once bright eyes now filled with a profound sadness. She had been missing for years, having fled without a trace following a scandal that had shocked the Forrester family. Her departure was abrupt, accompanied by allegations and unresolved questions. Some assumed she fled to avoid the disgrace of her conduct, while others claimed she was forced away by the weight of expectations. But she was back, standing before them, her face a mix of defiance and vulnerability. Ridge's voice sliced through the silence like a razor. "How dare you reveal your face here, Luna?" His remarks were biting, tinged with rage that had been building for years. His hands tightened into fists at his sides, and his broad shoulders tensed with rage. "After everything you did, do you think you can just come back into our life as if nothing happened?" Brooke placed a soft hand on Ridge's arm, a wordless plea for calm, but her own eyes revealed her anxiety. She had always been the voice of reason, the one who bridged gaps, but even she couldn't hide her disbelief at seeing Luna again. "Ridge, let her speak," Brooke whispered quietly, her voice trembling. "We need to figure out why she's here." Luna's gaze fell to the floor, and her fingers twisted uncomfortably at the hem of her jacket. "I know I hurt you all," she said, barely above a whisper. "I understand I do not deserve your forgiveness. But I didn't return to create more misery. I came back because I had no choice." Ridge exploded, coming forward, his face flushed with fury. "You had every option. You choose to betray us, lie, and destroy everything we've built. And now you're standing here, acting like the victim?" His comments reverberated throughout the room, each one a blow that appeared to strike Luna bodily. She flinched but did not back away. The narrative of Luna's betrayal had tormented the Forresters for years. She was a rising star at Forrester Creations, a young designer with an eye for invention and a charisma that captivated everyone she encountered. Ridge had taken her under his wing, mentoring her and trusting in her ability to carry the family history forward. Then followed the accusations, stolen designs, leaked secrets, and a scandal that lost the corporation millions of dollars. Luna vanished before the truth could be completely revealed, leaving a trail of broken trust and unresolved questions. "I didn't do what you think I did," Luna stated, her voice growing stronger. "I remember how it looked. I knew the evidence was against me, but I was set up. I was young and naive, and I trusted the wrong people." Ridge scoffed, turning away, his hands ripping through his hair. "Do you expect us to believe that? After all this time? You think we're that gullible?" Brooke's eyes softened as she gazed at Luna. "Tell us then," she said. "If you were set up, who did it? Why didn't you fight to have your name cleared?" Luna's lips parted, but no words emerged at first. She took a hesitant breath, her eyes shimmering from unshed tears. "It was Bill," she finally said, her voice breaking. "Bill Spencer." The room grew silent as the weight of her accusation hung in the air. Bill Spencer, a strong media mogul, has long been a source of contention for the Forrester family. His animosity with Ridge was legendary, lasting decades and fueled by personal and professional betrayals. But hearing his name associated with Luna's collapse left Ridge stunned. "Bill?" Brooke repeated, barely audible. "Why would Bill do that to you?" Luna's shoulders dropped, and she threw her arms about herself, as if to block off the memories. "He wanted to hurt you," she continued, staring at Ridge. "He knew how much you believed in me and how much you trusted me. He saw an opportunity to pull us apart and undermine Forrester Creations. And I was the ideal pawn." She continued, her words falling out in a hurry. "Years ago, Bill contacted her with an offer, a partnership that promised to take her career to new heights. She was flattered, captivated by his charisma and the attraction of his authority. But she didn't realize he was exploiting her, feeding her fake information, and planting evidence to make it appear like she had betrayed the Forresters. When the controversy surfaced, Luna was too overwhelmed and afraid to fight back. She had fled, believing that it was the best way to protect herself and the family she cherished. Ridge's face was a mask of contradictory emotions, anger, skepticism, and a glint of something softer, hinting at the closeness they had shared. "Are you saying Bill framed you?" he inquired, his tone low and menacing. "Do you expect me to accept that you were just a victim in this?" "I don't expect you to believe me," Luna stated, her voice now steady. "I realize I made mistakes. I should have stayed. I should have fought. But I was terrified, Ridge. I was frightened of losing everything, of disappointing you much more than I already had." Brooke stepped forward, her gaze fixed on Luna's face. "Why come back now?" she inquired. "Why would you risk facing us again after all these years?" Luna's stare met Brooke's, and for the first time, she had a look of resolve in her eyes. "Because I found proof," she explained. "Proof that Bill was behind everything. Documents, emails, recordings. He was negligent, assuming I'd never return. But I did. And I'm not running anymore." The announcement sent a shockwave through the crowd. Ridge's jaw tensed, and his thoughts raced as he pondered Luna's remarks. If what she stated was correct, Bill Spencer had not only betrayed Luna, but also organized a conspiracy that had harmed the entire Forrester family. The thought was enough to fuel the flames of his old rivalry, which had never fully died out. "Where's the proof?" Ridge demanded, his voice tinged with urgency. "Show me." Luna dug into her bag for a small USB disk and held it out to him. "It's all here," she explained. "Everything you need to expose him." Ridge grabbed the drive, his fingers tightening around it. He wasn't sure whether to believe her or trust the woman who had previously crushed his heart. But the weight of the drive in his hand felt like a lifeline, an opportunity to discover the truth and, perhaps, right the wrongs of the past. The days that followed were full of revelations. Ridge and Brooke examined the facts Luna had presented, their initial skepticism giving way to a deepening sense of fear. The records were damning. Emails from Bill to a third party outlining the plan to implicate Luna, as well as recordings of conversations in which he boasted about his success in undermining the Forresters. Everything was there, in black and white, as evidence of his vicious ambition. However, the truth came at a cost. For Luna, going to Los Angeles meant confronting not just the Forresters, but also the demons of her past. The city was packed with memories of her time at Forrester Creations and the dreams she had previously held so dear. Every corner served as a reminder of everything she had lost, and the weight of those losses weighed heavily on her like a physical burden. One evening, as the sun began to set, Luna stood alone on the balcony of the Forrester home, gazing out at the city lights. She had always admired this perspective, how the skyline appeared to glitter with possibilities. But now it felt like a harsh reminder of everything she could never get back. Brooke discovered her there, her presence subtle yet soothing. "You've been through a lot," Brooke replied, her tone kind. "I can't imagine how difficult this must be for you." Luna turned to her, tears flowing down her cheek. "I thought coming back would fix things," she told me. "I believed that if I could prove the truth, everything would be okay. But it does not. It does not undo the years I lost or the anguish I inflicted. I'm not sure how to proceed from here." Brooke placed a hand on Luna's shoulder, her touch warm and solid. "You move forward by forgiving yourself," she told me. "You made mistakes, Luna, but you were also a victim." Luna shook her head, her voice shaking. "You don't have to carry that guilt forever." "How can I forgive myself after hurting so many people? When did I injure Ridge?" Brooke's gaze softened as she drew Luna into a tender embrace. "Ridge is angry because he cares," she explained. "He believed in you, Luna. He still does, though he's too obstinate to accept it just now. Give him time. Give yourself time." Shortly later, there was a confrontation with Bill that shattered both families' foundations. Ridge raced into Bill's office at Spencer Publications, holding the USB disk and looking furious. "Did you think you could get away with this?" he yelled, smashing the drive onto Bill's desk. "You thought you could destroy us and escape unscathed?" Bill slumped back in his chair, his face infuriatingly calm. "You're upset, Ridge," he continued, his tone condescending. "But let us be honest. Luna was a liability. I did you a favor." The words were like fuel on a fire. Ridge surged forward, grasping the edge of Bill's desk. "You used her," he said angrily. "You exploited her, framed her, and let her take the blame for your schemes. You are not going to walk away from this, Bill. Not this time." The consequences were fast and harsh. The proof was made public, and the media frenzy that ensued portrayed Bill as the villain he was. Spencer Publications' stock plunged as investors reacted to the controversy. But Luna's win was bittersweet. The truth had been exposed, but it could not undo the years of agony, isolation, and self-doubt that had consumed her. As the weeks evolved into months, Luna began to reconstruct her life one painful step at a time. She returned to Forrester Creations as a consultant, not a designer, and worked discreetly behind the scenes. Ridge was still guarded, his faith in her shaky, but there were moments, small, brief moments, when she saw the old warmth in his eyes, the spark of the mentor who had once trusted in her. Ridge paused one day when they were working on a new collection, looking at her with such intensity that her heart ached. "I was wrong about you," he said quietly. "I should have listened, given you the opportunity to explain. I'm sorry, Luna." The words were simple, yet they held the weight of years. Luna nodded, her throat tight with emotion. "I'm sorry too," she said. "For running. For not being stronger." Ridge extended his hand, briefly placing it on hers. "You're strong now," he stated. "And you are here. That's what matters." The path to recovery was lengthy, and the scars from the past would never totally vanish. But for Luna, the opportunity to stand in the light again, to recapture a bit of the life she had lost, was sufficient. The Forrester family was far from perfect, with a history full of betrayals and regrets, but they were a family united by love and the hope of redemption. And when the autumn leaves fell, Luna glanced out at the city again, her heart a bit lighter, and her soul a little stronger. The sad turn in her life had brought her back to this point, and while the journey had been hard, it had also demonstrated the human spirit's tenacity, the power of truth, and the promise of a new beginning. Ridge had been waiting so long to see her again. There were times when he believed he'd never hear her voice again, or see her gently enter a room as if she didn't want to upset the world around her. He had prayed for her to return complete and unchanged, the young woman with a quiet strength that calmed others around her. But when she reappeared, he understood the cosmos had responded in the most brutal way possible. She was physically present, but something inside her was fragmented, a result of time and loss. Bill was the first to speak as she emerged at the door, his words piercing the air like glass. He did not welcome her. He demanded to know why she had returned, what she wanted, and whether her return posed a danger to those she had left behind. He didn't forgive readily. His rage was ferocious and unwavering, fueled by years of betrayal and wounds he believed would never heal. He told her she deserved to pay, that the world had been too nice in allowing her to fall into stillness and then reappear as if nothing had occurred. Ridge attempted to maintain order, but there was no peace in the room that night. His voice rose against Bill's, his words sharp and vehement, not because he didn't believe Bill's charges, but because he couldn't bear the brutality of uttering them aloud to Luna's vulnerable face. Ridge's heart was torn between rage and despair, and when he screamed at Bill, it was with the agony of a man who had waited far too long for a miracle, only to realize it was a ghost. Luna lowered her sight. Her eyes were not the same as they once were. They now carried weight, secrets wrapped in sadness, shadows of decisions she could not change. She did not fight back. She did not defend herself. She merely mumbled, "I'm sorry," over and over, her voice shaking like if speaking cost her power. Her apology was insufficient for Bill. He turned away, hands clenched, insisting that she face the consequences, that prison was the only option for her after what she had done. So what had she done? That was the question no one voiced aloud, because they may have already known. Her disappearance had not been an accident. It was enmeshed in betrayals and a series of mistakes that had caused others to suffer heartache and loss. She chose silence when her voice could have rescued someone. She had walked away, even if staying may have altered everything. Even though she carried her own grief and scars, the family she left behind also carried them, and Bill refused to allow those wounds go unnoticed. Ridge, on the other hand, noticed not just her flaws, but also the damaged child beneath them. He remembered her laughing, how she used to lean against the railing outside and tell him about her dreams as if they were precious gems she wanted to share. He remembered the night she grieved in his arms after her first major heartbreak, mumbling that she didn't know if she would ever be able to love again. He remembered her before the darkness arrived. Ridge responded to Bill's call for retribution with a call for mercy. The house echoed with voices clashing, accusation, defense, anguish, fury, until Luna broke down and begged them to stop. Her tears streamed down, each one carrying the weight of the years she had spent away, the decisions that tormented her, the love she believed she had lost forever. She admitted she had not returned to harm anyone. She had returned because she couldn't bear the load alone anymore. She desired forgiveness, even though she knew she did not deserve it. Bill walked away, unable to watch her disintegrate. His steps were heavy with rage, but underneath that rage was something deeper that he refused to admit. Hurt. He had believed in her, and her absence had made him colder, tougher, and less trusting. Demanding incarceration was simpler than confessing that his heart still hurts. Ridge stayed. He knelt beside her, his voice gentle, no longer thundering but raining. He said that forgiveness could not be demanded or erased in one night of tears. It would take time. It would take the truth. And it would take fortitude to confront what had been broken without fleeing again. Luna nodded between sobs. She didn't ask him if he'd ever look at her the same way again, since she knew the answer was no. But, just maybe, he could learn to see her differently, not as the girl she had once been, but as the woman who had finally returned, scarred and transformed but still present. In the silence that followed, the house appeared heavier than before. Every wall, every shadow seemed to hold recollections of what had been lost and what had been discovered far too late. Ridge sat next Luna, not touching her, not saying anything else, simply letting the silence stretch between them like a brittle thread. And, though his heart was still burning with indignation and aching with despair, he knew that abandoning her now would be another tragedy they couldn't afford. Outside, the night continued as if nothing within the home mattered. The stars blinked coldly above, oblivious to the maelstrom of anguish and hope below. Life would go on regardless of whether they healed. But for Ridge, Luna, Bill, and everyone else who had been affected by her decisions, the world would never be the same. What was broken would remain broken, no matter how much love attempted to mend it. Despite the brokenness, there was still life, the tiniest glimmer of hope for the future. Luna's return was heartbreaking, agonizing, and full of demands for justice, but behind it all lay the truth. She had chosen to return rather than disappear forever. And, in the darkest stories, returning might be the first delicate step toward redemption, even if it takes a lifetime to achieve.